and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and these are my weekly wonderings and wonderings. What am I going to get up to this week? First of all, we are expecting snow. Yes, this is the end of February, but we are expecting some snow on Sunday. Now, it's one of those situations where it's like it could snow a whole bunch or we could get just a dusting. It happens a lot around here. This is how we live. We never know. We know winter weather is coming. How much of it will we get? We never know. So it'll be a mystery. We'll all find out together. How much snow are we going to get this time, if any? The next question that follows up to that one is, will I have to work on Monday? I don't know. I sort of am hoping not, but we will find out. Stay tuned. So that is what is on the immediate horizon for me this coming week. Other than that, it's just work. However, this week at work is going to be fun because we are doing a readathon, which used to be an annual event, a fundraising event at my school, and they brought it back this year, and I love it because I get to incorporate some literary aspects into my music lessons, which I could at any time, but this gives me a real reason to do that. So we're going to be looking at some fairy tales and corresponding ballets and the music, of course, that goes with that in music class this week. So that's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. And then in my high school class, we're going to be reading through some scenes of Romeo and Juliet, and we're watching various adaptations of it, musical adaptations of it, of which there are quite a few. So that is something I'm really looking forward to in my work life this week. Otherwise, in my reading life, I continue to read The Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain, and I'm more than halfway through, and I'm really hoping to finish it up this week, but I'm gonna have to step up the pace on that one a little bit. I also am reading Georgette Heye's Regency World for Febregency. I don't think I'm going to finish that this week. So, however, I should make some significant progress on it. Also for Febregency, I am reading Letters to Alice on First Reading Jane Austen, and I do think I should be able to finish this one. It's not very long, and I am 25% of the way through it already. Mostly enjoying it. We'll see how I feel as it continues, but I'm loving her thoughts on literature and really good books. I also picked up a Georgette Heye again for Febregency, and it's also one of my 10 at a time books. I'll link to my video about that in the description box so you can find out what I'm talking about. But that I need to step up the pace on my 10 at a time, or I'm not even gonna get 10 books read this year. So one of my Georgette Heye books is in that list, so I'm gonna read one. I already picked it up last night, read a couple chapters, so got started on that. But I also want to read this book, The Lady's Mind, and participate in the discussion on Oshina's Fable book club. So I'm hoping to read this, and I don't think that it will be a very, it's kind of long, but I don't think it will take me a lot of time to read. Francine Rivers is very readable and an author that I really enjoy. This has been on my physical TBR for a little while now. I've been wanting to read it. I want to read everything by Francine Rivers, and I'm slowly working my way through her backlist. This is her most recent book. So a lot of reasons for me to read it. So all of those things I am working on this week. What will I finish? You will find out together with me. That is my plan for this week. So let's get it started. It is Monday morning and I am at home, as you can see. I did not have to go to work today. We did get some snow yesterday. Our area did not get as much as they thought we might, although they were saying all along it's very difficult to predict the storm exactly who was going to get what. The ranges were really wide. So we didn't get much actually. And initially the call was a 2-hour delay today, but then they changed it to school cancellation, and which made us very happy, of course, because, you know, we're not going to complain about an extra day off. But the truth is, a 2-hour delay would have been sufficient. However, we are enjoying our day at home and relaxing. And so here we are. Yesterday was great fun with the U.S. men's team completing the sweep of the gold medal in hockey at the Olympics, and that was great fun because I do love all of my Canadian friends, but it is a lot of fun to be able to beat them in hockey only because they're so great. So that was fun. And then the rest of our evening activities yesterday were canceled because of the weather. So yesterday evening we were able to just relax and have an evening at home. And so I was able to finish a book, which brings me up to 21 on my counter. So I need to change that, which I am going to do right now. I opted to read actually over the course of a couple of days. I started and I finished reading Friday's Child by Georgette Hare, which I don't think I had mentioned when I was listing my possibilities of books that I could read for this week, but it had been on my TBR. It was on my 10 at a time, which I wanted to make further progress on, and it fit for the historical romance option for Alma's Journey Through Time reading challenge for this year. So all good reasons for me to pick it up, and I am so glad I did. But before I talk about that, let's look at this. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. 21 books so far, which is pretty good. We are getting towards the end of February, and that's actually significantly better than last year at this time, as well as I think better than average for me overall. So this is probably one of the last times this year when it will be appropriate to use this cup. So, a little snowman cup. Friday's Child. This is actually, I think, going to go up there with my favorite Georgette Hares. The other ones are Arabella and even more so Frederica, which I really love because they're so funny and I like the characters. And this one as well, although this one has more of a young adult feel to it. Our main characters, well, the girl is 16, 17 years old, so she's very young. And the guy is 24, which by Regency standards for getting married is actually pretty young. So, and he behaves very immaturely. They're both very immature characters at the beginning of the story, which will, I know, turn some people off because you're going to be reading it and thinking like, these kids are dumb, especially if you are of an advanced maternal age like myself. And you will be thinking these kids are dumb, but they're also quite endearing in their own way. And the antics that they get up to are quite funny. And Georgette Hare is just such a humorous writer that it's an enjoyable ride along the way, even if you find them mildly exasperating at times. But in the end, their development arc is actually, in my opinion, one of Georgette Hare's best. Honestly, I don't think that she does character arcs very well, like developing their character, helping them grow and overcome something. It's more about the situations, her writing is more about the situations they get into, the antics that they have, and the way that the couple gets drawn together. There's not a lot, honestly, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I could come back and revisit this thought later and say, yeah, you were way off base there. But that's kind of my impression of my memory of the books I've read by her. Not a lot of character development, but this one, there really is. And it's masterfully done. So you have this young man who is a typical careless, carefree kind of guy who's just having fun in life, and he can afford to because he's wealthy, he's a member of the nobility, he's a lord something or other, and he can do what he wants, and so he does. And he enjoys all that the pleasures of town life, i.e. London, have to offer him for someone with his status in society and the money that he has. And he's not innately selfish or ignoble or mean or cruel or vindictive or any of those things. He's just immature and having fun with life and doesn't have a lot of anxiety about the future or wisdom or discernment about the choices that he's making. He's just living in the moment. And it comes to the point where he's been living in the moment a little too much, and he's starting to feel the pinch financially. And so he realizes that he needs to get married because his inheritance is held by a trust until such point as he gets married or turns 25. And he's a year or so away from turning 25. And so he wants to access his inheritance and have full control over it. So he decides he needs to get married. The first person that he proposes to refuses him flat out. And so he gets in an argument with his mother, and he storms out of the house and swears that the first woman he meets, he is going to get married to. Luckily for him, the first person that he meets is a childhood friend who he has known for the better part of a decade, and they've sort of grown up together. He knows her well. He's tolerated her at least, like a little kid sister sort of way. And she has always like idolized and worshipped him. So they end up getting married suddenly, which is a humorous scenario in and of itself, the way all of that plays out. She goes to London as this naive, innocent young girl who knows nothing because she has not had the usual training of a young lady of the time because of her situation in life. So she is naive and innocent, and she implicitly trusts her new husband. Now, goodness, why can't I remember his name? Lord Sherrington, what she calls Sherry. She implicitly trusts him. And so it creates this dynamic that Georgette Hare uses to full advantage in the development of their character, where suddenly Lord Sheringham is put in the position, the young man is put in the position of having someone to care for who needs his protection and actually needs his guidance and his counsel, because she is naive and she keeps getting into what they call scrapes because she has no idea how to go about town, how to function in the polite society of that era. And so she keeps making mistakes, and she keeps, getting caught up in things that she shouldn't be as a woman of her status. And so he keeps having to rescue her, and along the way, it's slowly bearing in on him that ultimately all of this is his fault because she is just following his example, and he's setting a terrible example. And so he grows and develops in this and matures, and by the end becomes he was always likable and endearing before, but then you become to have a little more respect for him because he gains in maturity, he gains in wisdom, and he acts on that wisdom. He still does some stupid stuff, and that's kind of part of the culminating point of the plot. But then at the end, everything gets resolved, of course, and it's a happy ending for everybody. I love the ending scene, how everything gets tied up. It's really just a fantastic scene there. Ends with a little bit of high drama, but also some tenderness. Anyway, very sweet. I was reading some reviews about this book, and I heard two different things. I heard that Georgette Hare, when she was writing this during World War II, and she just wrote it to be like an escape fiction kind of story, not to be taken too seriously. And so she herself was a little bit like, I can't even believe I'm writing this drivel. But people ate it up. It was very popular. And since then, it has come to be admired as one of her best in terms of the writing and the plot and the structure and everything. And apparently at some point, she said it was one of her best. So I'm not sure which of those things that she said is accurate, or maybe she said both of them. But it is true that many critics place this up there as one of her best books, and I can see why. I feel like I may have read it at some point decades ago, but I kind of vaguely remembered some scenes from it, but I'm not 100% sure that I actually read it or not. But I really enjoyed this reading of it. I am continuing to read Letters to Alice upon first reading Austen and really enjoying it. I am dialoguing so much with this author in the margins. Some authors just make me do that. Like, I just wish that I could have an actual conversation with them. I'm just responding to the things that they're saying in the margins and having a marvelous time doing it. Half of the things she says, I agree with 100%. And I'm like, yes. And then the other half of things she says, I'm like, whoa, Natalie, what are you saying? Not even. And so it's just a lot of fun to be conversing with her in the margins. A lot of what she says about literature, I just love how she puts it, and I love her perspective on it, and I'm really enjoying her thoughts on that and on Jane Austen's books, etc. It's when she hits on topics of religion or cultural or society, that kind of thing, philosophy, where I'm like, we're not so much in full agreement, but not all the time. Sometimes she surprises me, like, out of left field, and I find that we are in perfect agreement and in accord on some things. So it's been very interesting to read it, and overall enjoying it. I'm about a third of the way through that. I am 60% of the way through Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain, and a couple of interesting things. First of all, last week, I forgot to mention this, during the Olympics in Milan was one of the places that he actually visited. And I did not realize that the Last Supper painting was in Milan, which I find it also ironic that that was made such a big deal of in the Paris Olympics a couple years ago. But now we're at the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and he's in Milan and he's talking about the Last Supper painting. It was very interesting. The little connections there. So that was really fun to be reading about him being in Milan while the Olympics were in Milan. Then just today, earlier, I was reading a section where he and some of his passengers, the passengers on the ship, actually went to a couple places in Russia, actually, or now the Ukraine, because they needed to pick up coal for the ship. And the ship was running low on coal. And so some of the passengers went on this little excursion for several days or a week or whatever. And they actually ended up meeting the emperor. It was Tsar Alexander II, I believe, that they met, and his whole family. And then they also went and visited Grand Duke Michael, who was his brother, and got to meet, so many of the royal family. And it was really, obviously, a very exciting moment for Mark Twain. And he also was a little bit humorous about it, of course, saying that, now that he had met an emperor, he couldn't rub shoulders with just anybody. He had to be, a little more choosy about his acquaintance. So anyway, it was really fun to read about his little excursion into Russia/Ukraine and the people that he met, particularly the royal family there, and his experience with that. So fun. Really enjoyed that. But now they're going back to meet the rest of the ship in Constantinople, and I think I actually don't know where they're going from there. So going all over the place. And that is what I've got going on right now. So I will check in later. It is Wednesday afternoon, and I did not have my staff meeting, but I did stay at work late working on stuff for next week. But I do have piano lessons coming up, so I have a little time to kill, about half an hour or so. So I'm going to sit here and read. I got myself a coffee and a protein bar, and I'm going to see how much I can read in the next 30 minutes. I am going to start with The Innocents Abroad. I'm on page 280. I see how far I can get with that. And if I get like 5 chapters in or so, which would be nice, I'm going to pick up Half a Soul, which I started reading yesterday. More about that in a little bit. And I don't know what page I'm on, but we'll see if I get to that, how much I read from there. So, wish me luck. 30 minutes have come and gone, and I have read 26 pages, which amounts to 4 chapters in The Innocents Abroad, which is how much I wanted to kind of sort of aiming to read for today. But there was a funny passage here that I want to mention. So they're traveling now in the Middle East, and they are, at this point in the story, they're on their way to Damascus. And he's talking about camels. He said, the road was filled with mule trains and long processions of camels. This reminds me that we have been trying for some time to think what a camel looks like, and now we have made it out. When he is down on all his knees, flat on his breast to receive his load, he looks something like a goose swimming. And when he is upright, he looks like an ostrich with an extra set of legs. Camels are not beautiful. They have immense, flat, forked cushions of feet that make a track in the dust like a pie with a slice cut out of it. They are not particular about their diet. They would eat a tombstone if they could bite it. A thistle grows about here which has needles on it that would pierce through leather, I think. If one touches you, you can find relief in nothing but profanity. The camels eat these. They show by their actions that they enjoy them. I suppose it would be a real treat to a camel to have a keg of nails for supper. And then he goes on to talk about the horse that he's riding, Jericho, and it's quite a humorous story. So that is my 30 minutes of reading. That brings me up to chapter 45, and there's like 62 or something like that. So I'm getting pretty close to the end of this book and enjoying it. Enjoying his observations on, he's in Jerusalem now, in the Holy Land. And when they were in Damascus, there have been a lot of like biblical sites, and he's talking about them and talking about, it's just interesting getting his perspective on those things. He definitely was very familiar with all of the Bible stories, for sure. So that's it. I'm going to head off to my piano lessons, and I'll check in with you another day. Okay, it's Thursday in the middle of the workday, but I had to go run a couple errands for work to get some stuff for a project I'm doing. And I just am having a bit of a freak out. So it's February 26th. There are 2.5 days left in this little baby month. And I am in the middle of 4 books. One is for my Reading the Classics challenge. I have less than 100 pages left, so that's good. But anyway, I have that one. That's Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain. And then I have Letters Upon First Reading Jane Austen, which, I don't know, I'm like 25% of the way through, and it's not a very long book, but it seems to be taking me a long time to read it. There are like 12 letters in there, and I've read, I think, 3 of them. And then there is Half a Soul, which I picked up. I don't think I told you that. I picked that up because I got it out of the library. I've been wanting to read it. It's a fairy tale Regency story, and I thought, well, perfect for February. And Chantel had been saying that it was a really good book. So I'm reading that, but it's taking me longer than I thought it would. And I was going to read it in the car on the way to work this morning because I was not driving. And I left it at home. And I want to be done with that one by now. Like, I'm still reading it, and I'm frustrated with myself because I'm still reading it. And then, what's the other one? Oh, Georgette Hare's Regency World. There is no stinking way I'm going to finish that one over the next 2 days. Like, there's no way. It's way longer than I thought it was going to be. So, freaking out. I only have 2.5 days. And I want to finish all of these books. And on top of that, I did want to read The Lady's Mind by Francine Rivers. But I keep wanting to finish something else before I pick it up, and I just haven't finished the other things to pick it up. And most of this week has gone by and I still haven't picked it up, and that is so freaking out. So this is the part where I tell myself, and remember what you said at the beginning of the year. One of your goals was to keep in mind. I don't remember if it was specifically one of my goals, but I know that last year, this is something that I was telling myself that I needed to carry into this year. Whether I made it an actual goal or not, I can't remember. But anyways, the idea is, keep in mind, reading is not confined to a month. Just because it's Febregency or Once Upon a Faebruary or the February prompt in your reading challenge doesn't mean that book must be confined to the month of February. There's no reason to freak out if it's not done by midnight, February 28th. You are not Cinderella, and you're not going to turn into a poor little girl sitting in the ashes just because you didn't read your book. Okay. It's okay if it bleeds into March. Your March reads will be waiting for you when you get to them. It's okay. It's all good. Okay. I feel better now. It's such a misty morning. It's hard to explain how it looks, but there's like frost on the ground, and then this fog. It doesn't really get captured in the video, but it's so like mysterious, and you feel like something maybe magical could happen. To close out this video, it is Friday night and the kids are at a lock-in tonight for school, and my husband went to drop them off for that, so it's late in the evening and I just need to film this final clip and get this uploaded. I finished reading Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which was a recommendation from Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day, and the premise of it just sounded so interesting. It is about a young woman in Regency, England, who, it's like a fairy tale story. So it's partially set in fairyland and then partially in England in the real world. And there's like some fairy activity, shall we say. And our main character has had half her soul removed by a fairy. As a result, she only feels things partially, she doesn't feel them fully. She lost the more passionate aspect of her emotional being. And so she's very even-keeled, very steady, which has its good and its bad things. So it's really an interesting exploration of that. The whole concept, like I said, intrigued me because of that. I thought that that would be a really interesting idea for a story, and it was. The premise was great. I didn't think the execution of it was fantastic. It wasn't phenomenal, like a book I would say everybody should read, but it was enjoyable. I liked how it played out. I liked how things got developed. There were some other situations happening, some other story threads going on. One or the other of them seemed maybe superfluous and unnecessary. It could have been a little bit tighter, I think. Some of the prose and the dialogue just were maybe elementary, maybe, I guess, I don't know, had a YA feel to it. Probably is YA, I'm guessing. I don't really know if it's YA or not. It had some of that feel to it for me. But overall, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. It was a great combination of Febregency and Faebruary. So honestly, the perfect book to read in February with these two events going on. So I finished reading that one, and it is February 27th. So I have one more day to finish reading Innocents Abroad, to start and finish The Lady's Mine, and Letters on reading it, Jane Austen for the first time. And I've already said there's no way I am reading, well, I mean, there's no way I'm doing all of this. Okay, let's be clear. What? I already knew there was no way I was going to finish Georgette Hare's Regency World once I started it and realized how long it was. That's going to take me a little bit longer to work through. But I am going to read it eventually. And we're going to carry these books over into March, and it's okay. It's gonna be fine. I did notice that Oshina had moved her discussion back to next Saturday, I want to say, or Sunday, for the ladies' mine. So that's good. I should at least have it read by them. Hopefully. So I didn't get to it when I wanted to, but I got distracted by other stuff. So that was totally on me, 100% on me. So that was my week in reading. Pretty decent overall. Where I'm sitting right now, I can't even remember, honestly. It's Friday night and it's not exactly late, but I'm tired and I've had a long week. So I'm gonna sign off and yeah, chat with me in the comments. Tell me what you think about what I'm reading, what you're reading, what we got going on. How are you feeling about March? It's March. By the time you're watching this, it's March. Okay, happy March. I'll see you next time. Bye.